My sundial doesn't read very well down here. Hello, friends. Welcome to the Youth Ministry 101 podcast, a podcast where you can learn tips, tricks, and hear stories to help reach youth in your life, parish, and youth group to share in the love and joy of Jesus Christ and his church. That is a very long intro every time I say it. My name is Matthew, and I am joined here by, I'll let you guys introduce yourselves.
My name is Pierre.
My name is Pierre. 2 P's.
I'm here with the P's. Pierre and Pia and Matthew. Not a P. That's okay. Today we're going to be talking about some fun things. I'm not going to get into the subject right away because we're going to talk about the funnest things first. The first question I have, okay, it's maybe not very fun, but what is the best advice that has ever been given to you?
Oh my god.
It doesn't have to be the very best, but.
Oh, I must say, like, the best advice that's ever been given to me, I was like, oh, spark, was actually from
Sorry, did you just say spark?
Yeah, spark.
What does that mean?
Spark means, like, my brain neurons were working.
Oh, they're firing off.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Not
That's
a bio major. I'm history, so if I'm wrong, let me know. But I think the best advice I've ever received was from my net team member, actually. So we're passing. I was on a traveling team when I was on net on one of my years, and we are driving past her town, and I was like, "Oh, don't you want to go to your town?" Imagine, like, hypothetically, like, you want to, like, go to your town. She's like, "Why would I think in the hypotheticals where I can be presently here and presently be with you guys and see the joys of right now?" And I was like,
Oh.
if you guys are listening, I did say, like, lean back, but you know,
She
like,
just dropped the mic.
yeah. And it's just like to live in the present, I think. And ever since then, I've been living like that. And yeah, that's the best advice I've ever had.
Cool.
So yeah.
Well done. That's awesome. How about you, Pierre?
Oh boy, one thing that I keep coming back to early on in our marriage, my wife and I are trying to discern something with our future, and I had a priest kind of tell me, just pick a date. Pick a date when you're going to make the decision by. And it seemed very simple, but you would go back and forth with these pros and cons, and often in discernment, nothing's super clear.
Yeah.
And just him saying, pick a date that's reasonable and make the decision that you're going to make on that date, and then stick to it.
Yeah.
And we're like, and it gave us such peace to make this date. And the date came, and nothing had changed in our lives, and we made a decision, and we made a change in our lives, which was for the best. But had we not made that date, you would have been forever like, when do you make this decision? Yeah. So when God kind of honored that, and I've always used that going forward, and with my kids and anybody else who asks for discernment stuff, it's like, just pick a date, and what your decision you have to make on that date is, and go with it, and God will honor that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Totally good if you're like an internal process that just like mulls over things.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. Very useful. I should maybe start doing that more.
Yeah. Pick a date when you're going to start doing that.
Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
true facts.
Today, right now.
Good.
Today's the day.
All right.
I think the best advice I've ever been given is come up with answers to your own questions before asking them. So people ask you, you have an answer. Because I don't have an answer to this.
Oh,
I should have thought about this before.
Always. Oh my goodness. You always have to have the answer.
I should have an answer. What's something? I gotta think of something spiritual.
It doesn't have to be.
I know it doesn't have to be.
And this is where we pause the video.
No. You guys talk for a while. I'll think about it. I gotta internally process
You know what I'm gonna say? Like, it's interesting how yours is discernment.
Yes.
And, like, looking to the future, and then my thing was living in the present.
Oh, that is so deep.
Right?
Wow.
But those are, like, really good advice we both got.
That's true.
That's
true.
crazy.
Yeah. And you can do both at
Yeah.
the same time.
It's like people might think it's contradictory, but
Yeah.
it isn't. Like, you got to live in the present, but also, like, you know, make decisions for the future.
And I was worried when I thought about what the piece of advice I wanted to share, because it seemed very deep and spiritual. And then you shared yours. I was like, oh, good. Hers is really good. It's deep and spiritual too. Yeah.
And it
So we
works
got
out.
Great.
present, future.
Yes.
Past. I gotta pick a past one.
Okay.
Okay, do you actually have a
No, I
good one?
don't. I was like, I've got one. No. I don't know. Like, I've received a lot of good advice in my life. Probably something about, like, not living for yourself. Somebody told me that, like, stop being selfish. Maybe that was the best thing.
I think it was Jesus. Yeah.
I read the Bible.
Yeah. There's some good stuff in there.
Amen. So today we're going to be talking about, so maybe I'll think of something as we go through this conversation, but today we're going to be talking about 5 things that you can do right now to improve your youth ministry, whether that's in your parish, in your school, wherever it is, whoever you are. These are 5 things you can do. And before we dive into it, if you want to receive this PDF straight into your inbox, this sounds like such a plug, on our website, netcanada.ca, you can go there and it's like scroll down to the bottom of the main page. It's 5 things you can do. It's a free PDF. Anyways, you can sign up for that. We're going to be talking about it today. We're going to kind of go off script of what the PDF actually says. So maybe we'll have some new insights. Maybe we will completely derail what's written there. I don't know. We'll see.
So that's some good advice for them to, download the PDF.
Yeah.
Get some good advice
Follow
that you
along.
give them. Yeah,
Exactly.
Good.
Yeah, I'll say that again at the end in case we forget. But before we move into that, I want to say a huge thank you to our co-missionaries for supporting the mission. Our co-missionaries are the amazing people who are donating to NET, and we can't do this mission without you. So thank you so much. If you want to find out more about how to become a co-missionary, you can go to our website at netcanada.ca. So the first thing we're going to talk about of the 5 things, so 1 of 5, is cultivating a relationship with Jesus. Okay. So think about this in the sense of, say I'm listening and I want to get involved in youth ministry. I'm just a young adult at my parish. There's something starting up. I'm not really sure how I can get involved. The first thing that you can do is cultivate a relationship with Jesus. What do you guys think of that? Do you have anything to speak into that?
Yeah, I think that's facts, actually. Because, like, if you think about your work doing in a ministry and you want to build up community and it's within a church setting, you should have, like, a good or, like, a striving to have a good relationship with Jesus. Because if you don't, it's like you're being a hypocrite type thing. It's kind of like, I want to start a basketball club. Do you play basketball? No, but I want to start this club. It's like, okay.
I'm a fan of basketball. I watch it every day.
But do you play it? No. Yeah, I think cultivating is such a simple way to do it. But to be honest, it's the hardest step.
True.
So, yeah.
True. Facts.
Yeah, it's actual facts.
And really at the heart of all ministry, at the heart of our church, is that mission to share Christ with others, right? And the beauty of the gospel is that we can know God and have that personal relationship with him. And that's what we want to share with youth or any ministry that we're involved in at the church. But you can't share what you don't have, right?
Exactly.
So if you're not cultivating that relationship with Christ, you can't share what you don't
What are you giving?
have.
What are you giving?
Exactly. So it seems like a no-brainer, but it should be a starting point. If you haven't started that relationship with Christ, or you're not cultivating it on a daily basis or on a regular basis and getting to know him better and allowing him to change you, you're not going to be as impactful on young people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How does that look? Is that a checkpoint that you reach of like, okay, I now have a relationship with Jesus. How do you if you say I'm listening to this and I don't know where to start, how do you start cultivating a relationship with Jesus?
I think, to be honest, taking time, like 5 minutes, 3 minutes, depending, just taking, or even 30 seconds, and just start that conversation with Jesus, and just say, I don't know. When I first heard this from like one of my missionaries on campus, like I went to university, and they were like, "Pia, do you have a personal relationship with Jesus?" I was like, I was raised Catholic. I know how to pray the Hail Mary and Our Father and Glory Be. I got you. No. But do you know how to have a conversation? And they're like, what do you mean? You can't talk to Jesus? And I was like, do you know how to talk to Jesus? And I was like, no. It's like, okay, sit, like when you first wake up and just say, hey, Jesus. And then start from there and just tell him like your worries and your struggles. And of course it can get more complex, but.
Yeah, I think something that was a game changer for me was I heard it said, I forget which quote or which saint said this, but like pray unceasingly, to pray at all times. Right. And then I heard it said, you can't pray at all times if you don't pray at specific times.
Yeah.
So I was like, before I was like, I don't pray in the morning. My younger brother was like reading the Bible every morning. I was like, ain't nobody got time for that. I'm like, I'm just going to like pray throughout the day, say a Hail Mary here and there and kind of like be like, God be with me at this time. And that was good. But I think it needs to start with specific time set aside. Yeah. And then it can move to you're praying with God throughout the day after you've had that set aside time.
Yeah. There's an old book called Christ, My Heart, Christ's Home. I can't remember the author. I think it's a non-Catholic author. Regardless, it's a good little booklet, and it uses the analogy of, inviting Christ into your heart, and he makes his home in your heart. But then he goes further into the analogy of different rooms in a house, right? But what really struck me early on in my faith renewal, my conversion, was that idea of just that relationship is like you would have with any other person. So a good friend that you're living with, or a spouse if you're married, right? And how would you be acting with that person in the same house? Would you walk by them in the morning and just not say hello? You say hello. Well, that's cultivating a relationship. If I don't sit down with my wife on a regular basis and have conversations, how much of a relationship is that? How much of a marriage is it? Legally, we're married, and legally, yes, we've gotten into that relationship, but are we really cultivating it and growing as spouses? So same with Jesus, like, do we regularly speak to him? And yes, there's rote prayers, there's, you know, the rosary and Our Father, but often it's just speaking. And, you know, if I hate to keep going back to the marriage analogy, but that's, you know, my most
experience.
Experience. But if couples stop speaking and stop fighting and stop communicating in any way, that's not good. So it's almost better that couples argue than not speak at all.
Totally.
So even if you're mad at God and you express that to him, that's okay, because it's cultivating that relationship. You're in that relationship. He's a person, he's real, and he wants to talk to you. So just, it doesn't have to be difficult, but I think your point but it has to be consistent, or you kind of have to make a plan for it, right?
Totally.
Or otherwise it's just not going to happen. And just recently I was with a friend and asked what they did, you know, during that day. And they talked about different things they did during that day. And it was a busy day. And they said, then I came back around 2 or 3, and because I didn't have time to pray in the morning, I prayed. And it really struck me like, oh, even though you missed it in the morning, that was your regular time. You're like, I still want to get it in. I should say get it in. I still want to talk to Christ and have some time alone with him and me. And so, if you don't make time to pray, you're not going to do it. You got to make specific times.
Totally.
So you can do it all the time.
What you said about rope prayers and like the rosary, those prayers, I remember growing up, this sounds very irreverent, but I disliked the rosary strongly because it was very long and it meant sitting, and like I always wanted to laugh and like incite my siblings to laugh. And anyways, it was always a bit of a disaster. But I found that as my relationship with Christ has been growing, going back to those prayers now is a totally new experience, because it's like the purpose of those prayers is to lead you into a state of like contemplation of the mystery of the rosary that you're on. And just like the beauty of the repetitiveness of the prayer eventually becomes like almost like your heartbeat. It just happens, right? And then you're able to think, you know, I'm thinking about the Annunciation, or I'm thinking about the birth of Jesus, and like you're dwelling on that. But out of the context of not having a relationship with Christ, it seems complete nonsensical. It's like, why would I repeat a prayer 53 times, you know? Anyways, so it's cool to see like the rosary come alive now in that sense. But anyways, I think both are very good. So I think that answers the question. I mean, that is the answer we need. It's the only answer. Obviously it's a process, but moving on to the second step. So the first is cultivate your relationship with Jesus. Second is offer your help to the existing ministries or start something. So let's say there's already a youth group started and you're like, I want to get involved. What do? You just offer to help?
Knock on the door, show up at the youth minister's office and be like, hey, I'd love to help. I heard, I think it was, maybe it was Father Mike Schmidt. Hope he's not watching and I don't get it wrong, but I think encouraging a missionary that was, you know, coming off university, maybe with Focus or something, and going back to the parish and saying, you know, what can I do? But I think he was encouraging them to not go back and say, hey, listen, I've just come off, you know, university and I've been involved in a ministry and I kind of know what I'm doing and I'd like to do X, Y, and Z. We have the zeal and we want to go in, we have gifts and talents, but sometimes it's better to go in a bit humbly and saying, what do you need? Like, I'm here. I do have this experience, but what do you need me to do? And if they say, can you just come and do dishes when we have a youth night or something, right? You'd be like, yeah, I'd love to do that. If that's what you need help with, go and help. Just offer your help and learn what's going on. And then your gifts and talents will come to the forefront at some point. But I think the first thing is to go in and just see what is needed. How can I go and help? So if you come with a servant's heart, they're going to take advantage of that and really appreciate that. I mean, you could probably speak to that more, being involved in youth ministry a lot.
Yeah, totally. I like just want people just to come, and like when people like come to me and say like, oh, I want to help with the youth ministry. What do you need help with? And I'm like, it's okay if I give you this or this. Like, and they're like, okay, yeah, sure. And sometimes it's not with small groups. Sometimes it's just helping out as behind the scenes, as you said, or even just like doing something else, like not youth group itself, but maybe like something with sacrament prep, because I also need help with that. And or like somebody like if you want help with the trailer, like, because there's a trailer at Divine Infant that kind of gets messy sometimes. So like, you know, there's help with that. So like, yeah, helping hands, like that's what I need. As much as I would love to do everything, I can't.
Right.
And like, I need people to like come forward and just like, what can I help with? And I love that.
Totally. When during my first year in Prince Edward Island, we had some youth volunteers. Well, they were like young adult volunteers come and help with the youth group. And I remember seeing like the transformation that happened like with our team and them, and they like became part of the team. So like they were first just kind of outsiders helping, but then they became involved in the ministry. They became invested in the youth. They were like having conversions of their own. And it was just such a beautiful thing to see that. So like if you're on the outside looking in and being like, I want to help, I don't know how, like you were saying, Pierre, just like go and be like, where can I help? I want to help. Where can I help?
Yeah. And I think relational ministry is very much key to what we do as NET. And in youth ministry, I think that's key as well. If a youth minister is trying to cultivate this relationship with the young people, they sometimes just need to be freed up from the other tasks that take up their time and need to be done as well. So if you can help with that, you are actually helping with evangelizing and helping these people cultivate the relationships.
Totally. And so I have like the little subtitle or start something that's kind of leading into the third point, which is start a small group. So let's say that you have nothing going on at your parish. Something that you could do is to start a small group. If you have experience running Alpha, or you've been in Alpha before, or you've been in any, table talks or any small groups like that. How do you start a small group, Pia? Just out of curiosity.
I feel like, because I don't know, I just think the way you start a small group is grab a group of people similar age, similar interests in a sense, and say, hey, do you want to start a small group? To be honest, maybe small groups are kind of like a scary noise or something. Not scary noise, scary phrase. So like, hey, do you guys want to like meet and like just talk about Jesus? Or not even talk about Jesus. We can talk about basketball. We can talk about rock climbing. You can talk about whatever.
Totally.
But as long as we have like that starting relationship, or even play Among Us. I remember I first started
Among Us. What is Among Us?
Among Us. I don't know if that's really in anymore, but
it might not be in the future.
It's like Mafia. You know the game Mafia?
Yeah.
It's kind of like that.
Okay.
But also,
it's a video game.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Oh, that was well explained.
Yeah.
Played on a cellular device.
Yes. I don't know if that's in anymore. That was like more of a pandemic situation. But so I played Mafia with kids for 5 weeks before I even started a small group.
Oh, wow.
I feel having the best way to start a small group is to have an initial relationship with them. And if you just want to go gung ho and start a small group, okay, you definitely can do that if there's gung ho people to do that. But if there isn't, I think it's like really worth to invest just doing what they want to do before. So yeah.
So when we're talking small group, are we meaning like doing a study of some sort or some program of some sort that's more systematic and you meet on a regular basis?
Yeah,
Is
that's
that kind of
good
what we're
question.
talking about?
It's like, I think either or.
Right.
Well, yeah, depending on like your available resources. So if, say, you are a younger person in your parish, I think cultivating the relationships with youth in your parish and just like starting a, weekly hangout, basketball at the gym, and then we'll chat for a bit afterwards, something like that. But if you want to like use a program, say like Alpha or Y Disciple, you could also do that. As to which one is more effective, I have a hunch that the relationships, you want to prioritize those, because if you go straight into a program, there's no process to it. We talked about that last season with Father Sean. So you can't just like turn on the TV and be like, we're going to watch Alpha. And this is going to fix all of our problems. You want to start with the relationship first.
Well, because a lot of the small group programs, Alpha or Faith Studies or Y Disciple, if you start getting a bit deeper into the faith, I think there's some vulnerability and trust that needs to be built, right? Because you'd want young people to be able to share their concerns, their desires, their fears, or just be honest about their beliefs about God. And if that trust isn't developed, then they're probably going to be a bit more hesitant to do so, and which would only be through relationships. So I'm agreeing with you both.
Okay. I've seen like this really cool dynamic in it was Alpha, I believe. Same situation in Prince Edward Island. But it was like, as we were running Alpha, we had these relationships already with the young people. There were some new people as well, so like we weren't as familiar with them. But as the weeks went along, like we got to know them better, and there was this trust that was developed where people felt like they could actually say what they really thought. So if there was a kid there who was actually atheist, he was then like 3 or 4 weeks in, once we had built a relationship and outside of the study, took time to invest, talk to them, you know, play games with them or whatever it was in the small group or in the youth group. And he was just like honest. He's like, yeah, I struggle to believe in God, or I'm not actually Catholic, and just opens up about that. And it's like, okay, it's good to know where you're at in your journey.
Yeah.
And to accept them there and be like, oh, not to be like, oh, you're not Catholic. Okay, well, you could try somewhere else then.
And it doesn't take a long time to build that trust either. I mean, some people may take longer, but I know my own experience in grade 11 when Net came to my high school, which was like years ago. The retreat, I've shared this before, but the retreat didn't mean a lot to me, but the small group did. And this was just a half-day retreat. So it wasn't a long time to get to know people. But I remember my small group leader, Jason. I remember to this day his name, what he looks like. And I remember feeling that he cared about us. And no matter what dumb answer somebody gave in the small group, he was just saying, okay, cool. Thanks for sharing. That's interesting. Anybody else? Does anybody else think that? Typical kind of Net stuff we do in small groups. But it always stuck with me. And I think it was a seed for me down the road for my own conversion that, hey, this guy's Catholic. He's weird, but he's cool. But he cares for me. And it felt safe, right? And it didn't take a long time to develop that trust. But I think it is essential, even when you get into small groups, that you have something. And I don't know what they did to develop that trust. But obviously he had it because it made an impact on me.
Yeah. Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah.
He had the Jesus factor. That's what he had.
He must have, yeah.
Exactly.
Must have been cultivating a relationship with Jesus at the time.
I think so. And I called him recently.
Yeah.
It's been 30 years at least.
Wow. Oh, you just dated yourself.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine. I'll tell you, it was 34 years ago. And I called him last year and I said, we've met before. And he's like, really? And I said, yeah. And I told him the high school and the year. And he's like, oh yeah, I remember that one. Apparently it was a super, super hard retreat. Whoa. And I said, you were my small group leader. He's like, really? Like, yeah, I've always remembered you. Remembered your name and your face.
That's awesome.
And I just told him how, even though it didn't do something for me there, like I didn't have a conversion, it was a seed that was planted and it made a big difference. And
wow.
I hope it was good for him to hear that, to know that,
that
you never know
so
what you would have, what kind of impact you'd have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
For sure. That's so cool. I think.
Sorry, Jason Clark, Theology of the Body.
Oh,
let's get that out there.
It was from the team that like went on to start everything, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's the first Net team. No,
that was James Michael Osick's team.
Oh.
Started Net Canada, started St. Therese.
Oh.
Yeah, Jim Anderson was there. That's a whole nother story too.
Oh,
so like Net USA people came up to Canada.
Yeah, James Michael Osick, Jim Anderson, Jason Clark.
The shout outs.
Look at that, right?
Iconic.
Dream team, man. Dream
Iconic.
team. Maybe I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them. Well, then, no, I wouldn't be. There you go.
That's crazy. So cool how all the stories just intertwine together like that.
Yeah.
And God's just going to use like, not that we're dominoes, but sometimes you look back on it, it's like, wow, if that little thing didn't happen, this thing wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
Yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
So
Actually.
cool. Speaking of, well, I was going to say, speaking of predecessors, forming parents in the faith, that is a very important thing. As the youth group leader, it is not your sole responsibility to form the youth, the kids in the faith. That might be a hot take, but yeah. What do you guys think about that?
I must say, like, parents is such an important role. Like, that's why I find, especially, I don't necessarily take this example from youth group, but specifically the confirmation class I'm doing. Because the confirmation class, I'm making sure the kids know everything. And also if they want to reject confirmation, okay, at least they have all the facts and I'm okay with that. But it's beautiful how the parents are getting inspired by the confirmation prep. And which makes me confident that like, they might go forward with that. They might go forward with the faith with that. And because at home, parents are always with them 24/7. The kids can be like, if the parents ask them to do something, it's like, no, I don't want to do that and be sassy. But if they said that to me, I'll be like they probably wouldn't type thing. Unless, I don't know. Anyways. But I think parents are super important for the faith and integral part for forming the faith in youth.
Totally.
Yeah.
They're the initial formators
Yes.
for their kids.
110%. Like if it wasn't for them, maybe their kids are not going to youth group. Like their kids, they drive their kids to youth group, right? Or they enroll their kids into youth group or confirmation prep or like wherever, right? So I think helping the parents understand their faith better.
How do you do that?
I must say, like, okay, the only example I have is actually confirmation prep because in youth group, I don't necessarily see the parents. The parents just drop them off.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's just like they are curious about the questions that their kids ask and they send me emails.
Right.
Like, for example, the way the confirmation prep works, like I went through like Jesus, Holy Spirit, the church to make sure they understood everything. And then we started talking about the Holy Spirit more in depthly. And now we're talking about confirmation. Some parents are like, I didn't know this was part of the Catholic faith. I didn't know that confirmation wasn't a graduation, but the start of a personal relationship with Jesus. Because when I got confirmed, that's what I was told. And I was like, and I'm getting emails like that, and emails about like, oh, my child was talking about wanting a personal relationship. How do you go about that? And it's so interesting. And
so awesome.
Yeah. Like, and I'm like, yo, like this confirmation prep is actually evangelizing to the parents as well.
Right.
Yeah, totally.
So I feel like having their kids, being involved with their kids' faith and not just like pushing them aside. Because I send out a weekly email about what happens in their kids' confirmation class. Very detailed, so they know what's happening. Because I want to be transparent with them because it's their kid, right? That I don't want their kid to come home. It's like, I don't want to be, what's it called? I forgot the term. Oh, like it's a kind of controversial, like a silent atheist or something like that.
Okay.
Right.
It's like a person that like believes in God, goes to church, but doesn't let
Practical.
God. Yes,
Practical atheist.
Yes, practical atheist. So like, I didn't want parents to be like, oh, my kid said I don't want to be a practical atheist, and then be like, what does this mean? But having that definition for them, and then they think that spark in their mind, and be like, am I a practical atheist? I believe in God. I go to church, but I don't let God work in my life. You know.
And that could honestly, their child coming home and saying that could like almost be like shedding the light on their own spiritual life and be like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, maybe I need to work on this too.
Yeah.
You know.
And then now there's parents. They like this. We just had Holy Week as of this recording, and parents. We saw parents go to Holy Thursday Mass, Good Friday service, Easter Vigil, just because like their kids were talking about it, and I was like,
Whoa.
yo,
Yeah.
what?
And that's a key. I think a key thing to remember is when we have youth coming, their parents are obviously connected to them, right? Unless they're 16 and driving themselves.
Yep.
Normally, the parents either force them to come or drop them off, or a combination of the two. So to take advantage of that situation, maybe not advantage, use that as an opportunity, right? And I've been seeing more sacrament prep programs starting to do that, involve the parents or have the parents actually come and have some formation for the family as a whole. Not talking down to the parents too much, not talking too much over the kids' heads, but kind of involving some stuff and being very purposeful, knowing that a lot of these families are probably very nominal in their knowledge of the faith, in their practice. And so like personal relationship, popping that in there and getting them asking those questions. So I think sacrament prep is a really good opportunity that I've seen a lot more youth ministries that are starting to get it, saying let's use this opportunity to reach out to the parents. Stuff like youth group nights might be a little different, but I've seen, and I know even when my wife and I were running youth group years ago when we were younger, to see like parents are dropping off their kids to youth group. And sometimes they would hang around for a bit, or they would go shopping or go for coffee for an hour or wait for their kids or 2 hours. So to say, what if some of them would hang around more? Could we get somebody else from the parish to do something for them, right? So this is where we involve other people and saying, maybe you run an alpha while the kids are at youth group, right? Or maybe you just have a faith session. We did certain things like, I know Patrick Lencioni had a book about busy families. So we did a session on that, like a couple sessions. While your kids at youth group, come out to this thing, and then you get to know them. Other things we would do is try to get the kids involved in the parish life in some way, especially on Sundays, right?
Yeah.
So your kid's going to do a presentation at Mass on Sunday or do something.
Yeah.
Why don't you come with them? So you get them involved in the parish life as well. So using those opportunities of the kids are already there, get their parents involved, reach out to their parents, evangelize, inform them. There's a lot of ways if you start thinking about it, and involving other people in the parish to do that. Like I think you said, it's not your primary job to form the parents, but why not use that time when you have an audience that's available to you?
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
For sure.
Not the primary audience, but direct influencers of your primary audience.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the fifth thing you can do is give financially.
Right. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Papa chips cost money sometimes.
That's true. It's like, I must say, like, when you said that, I was like, yes, First, I said no because there's a parish budget.
Okay.
But specifically, it gets the parish involved, giving financially. Of course, there's as much as you can do, like parish appeals and do all these things. I think giving financially helps people realize there is a youth ministry and there's youth ministry that's alive and active. The first thing I'm thinking of is like Steubenville. Like there's like at the culture DI, there's usually the kids go to Steubenville, we fundraise, so all the kids have the opportunity to go. And that really gets the parish like really alive and like, oh, there's youth here. Okay, I need to donate. And it's simple and it's like alive. And then more youth come.
And it's concrete too, right?
Yeah.
They're given to something that they can see happening. Yeah.
And then they go to Steubenville and then they come back, right?
Yeah.
And like they get into themselves involved in the parish. So yes, give financially is really good.
There was one youth group we were helping with, and they would ask parents to give Canadian Tire money, which used to be on paper, right? Like actual money.
Yeah.
And, you'd have like 5, 10, 25 cents, and just to give Canadian Tire money. And they say, because we use it to buy sports equipment, for the youth ministry. And they would every year buy new sports equipment with all this Canadian Tire money. Oh my gosh. But you think of different ways that they can give financially, right? Or to donate food for a certain event. I know when we would run vacation Bible schools in the summer, and we would ask, you can give financially, you can come help out, or we need food cards or gift cards to grocery stores so we can buy the food. And people love doing that. They love doing that, right? They'd give money, but for some reason they love to buy a gift card and give it to you because it seems more tangible, right? You're actually going to buy food with this card that's going to feed these kids for the VBS. So if you can think of creative ways too to help people give financially, and then they feel more bought in.
Yeah, and some people like have the charism of like generosity or like giving. So it's like I can't go, but I can give.
Yeah, exactly.
Give by going.
Yeah.
Or go by giving.
But cash is always great.
Yeah, cash is great. Like I would say, like as long as you like give something, people feel like, oh, they're part of this.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, I've financially donated. And then especially like youth, they are very lively and very like active. So like the fact, and there's always a potential, I must say, when people see youth.
Show the fruit. Show the fruit.
Yes. And I'm not saying like if you see older people, there's a potential. Like older people are great.
Thank you. Thank you, Pia. Thank you very much.
But like they add a liveliness to the church. I must say. And people get like I remember there's this one priest I did ministry elsewhere, and there's this one priest that did that would come up specifically for this ministry, drive 9 hours so he can see youth.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
So he was telling me, I wish the youth can come down to my parish, or like my parish can like financially donate to this youth. But it was kind of difficult to like send material to his church, anyways.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's like
whoa, that's dedication. That's so cool.
Yeah.
So we got cultivate a relationship with Jesus. Number 1. Number 2, offer your help to the existing ministries or start something. Number 3, start a small group. Number 4, form parents in the faith. And number 5, give financially. That is 5 things you can do right now to improve your youth ministry. And if you want to find this list, you can head over to our website again and go find the PDF at the bottom of the main page. Any last notes before we sign this one off?
yeah.
I still didn't think of a best advice yet.
Oh, Maddie.
I'll think of it. Maybe it'll be in the next episode.
I feel like this is exactly, I love that's 5, and I love that it involves the parish, obviously the youth, also the parents. Because if you have those 3 things, you have such a fire youth ministry, which will spread to other ministries, I find. Because of course, those youth is going to age out. Those parents are not going to be, they're going to be parents of adult children, right? So they can get involved with other things, and they feel community. And if there's a community at that parish, ministry will always be alive.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how many of us are the fruit of the youth ministry that like we were a part of growing up, or like you were saying, going to the net retreat, like that had such an impact on you that carried moving forward. So yeah, very cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us for this episode. If you'd like to find out more about our ministry, you can head over to netcanada.ca and follow us on all the social medias at netcanada. Thank you so much for joining us on this week's episode. We will see you guys next time.